Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the new Kershaw Bareknuckle Duralock. This knife, the original bare knuckle, is an evergreen knife. This was one of Kershaw's most popular knives ever, and it was made with a different blade steel, and actually a couple of different blade steels, and then was gone for a long time. Now we have this back in Magna Cut and aluminum. This is a USA-made knife, which when, the comments start talking about valid comparisons and this or that, and you can get the same materials for that, this is a truly USA-made knife. Not a knife that is just assembled here. This is a knife that is manufactured here, and that is substantially more expensive to do than in China. So if we're going to compare Magna Cut and aluminum or some similar combination of materials, and it's made in China, the argument is already out the window. Now, if you don't care if your knife is made in the United States, I think that's perfectly fine because you can get some really nice Chinese stuff. But if you do care, either way, factually, whether you care or not, having a knife manufactured in the United States, even with a company like Kershaw who's capable of mass production, it is still wildly more expensive to build your knife in the USA. And ultimately, the reason I'm saying this is because I think the final price tag they came to was still pretty darn good. Now, can this knife be improved? Yes, and I can explain exactly how. But gosh, this is a good knife. It's such a good... This as of right now is one of Kershaw's best knives, period. I'm going to be keeping this. Sorry. I give away most of what I get for free, but I'm gonna keep this one. I really like this, and I've also got a soft spot for the bare knuckle. I really like it. Thanks so much to Kai USA for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. This will be linked down in the description. You guys can check it out if you want to. Let's go ahead and measure this knife. The overall length of this bare knuckle here is actually a little over 8 inches. 8 and then it's 8 1/16. Blade length is coming in at over 3.5, about 3.65, and cutting edge is about 3.35. Interesting ratios there. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. You can see here, it is actually kind of approaching the same overall length as my Excalibur. Definitely bigger than something like the Shark Cub. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2. What the heck happened to those knives? So there we go. Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. It is very similar in overall size to the PM2, but has a decent amount more cutting edge, and honestly, it's very similar in terms of ergonomic space. It just doesn't have the choke up spot. Let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and then finally the Hogue Deca. There we go. Okay. How is the action on this knife? This knife runs on bearings. This is using a crossbar lock with Omega springs. We will talk about that. It is insanely smooth, as it should be, and honestly, the tension on the Omega springs is good. Combination with some really well-designed thumb studs. They look like they're going to be sharp, and initially they feel like they're going to be sharp, and then I deploy it. I'm like, oh, that's very, very comfortable. Honestly, really happy with the deployment here. Crossbar locks never feel as good as lock bars with like detent balls. But this is done well. It's done to the, in a way that makes it very easy to like slowly roll out, or kick out hard, and enjoy that satisfactory sort of click into the open position. So the action's very good. I think that bringing back a version of the sub frame lock is a good idea. I think doing a nested liner lock version is a good idea. I think doing a top liner lock version, which, my God, Kershaw, you guys are killing it. I love you guys. You guys are doing an amazing job. Anybody who argues that Kershaw isn't knocking it out of the park as far as a U.S. company going, like a production knife company, they're wrong. They're just wrong, right? There's no debate. You're just wrong. Like, if you think that, if you're like walking along and like 2 + 2 is 4, and I'm like, that's right. And you're like, the sky's blue, and I'm like, yeah, that's correct as long as it's not cloudy. You're like, hey, water's wet. I'm like, yeah, you're 3 for 3. And then you're like, Kershaw's not doing a very good job. I say, you get out of here, you idiot. You're terrible. That's a dumb thing you said. It's wrong. Doing a great job. For the love of God, Kershaw, you guys totally need to do like a top liner lock. Number one, if you wanted to do a full-on compression lock, you can do that because the patent ended on it. But so many companies are doing these button-operated top liner locks, and you guys are just now starting to screw around with crossbar locks and button locks, and it's like, that ship sailed. Like, you guys have great designs. You're a legacy company. You have some of the best prices for, you know, USA like USA production knives out there. Like, you guys have that, and that's keeping you, you know, up there in, you know, like sort of the S tier as far as the community is concerned. But man, if you want to take it a step further, these locks are old news, and they work, but they're old news. Perhaps, and I think I know why, perhaps the reason that they're not so inclined to change these things is because we, as the knife community, as the enthusiasts, we forget that we do not represent the majority. No! In fact, we are actually a very, very small portion of their true buying audience. You know how many brick and mortar locations they have? How many different online retailers are authorized to sell Kershaw products? I don't think we can even fathom it. Us on the hardcore YouTube, Instagram, Blade forums, Discord, Reddit, we're just these little goofball groups. We're nothing. We're the tiny minority versus their total all-encompassing buying audience. And you know what? The filthy casuals, as we so lovingly like to refer to those people, are probably much more keen on buying these operating systems that are familiar and simple, right? They work. Kershaw does a good job with at least the crossbar lock. So that's probably why. But as a YouTube content creator who demands the best from every company that he reviews, God, I would love it if you guys would just make a top liner lock or top button operated top liner lock, or better yet, you can improve this lock. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. What the heck was I talking about? Carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Yeah, it's about the same. Is this subtly contoured? No, I don't think so. Sorry, nobody's in mortal peril or anything outside of my house, but the kids are outside playing kickball. Like my son and daughter like to play kickball with the neighbor kids, and it gets really competitive and crazy. So you're going to be hearing that periodically. So, and there are adults out there watching them, so don't worry. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. This has an absolutely beautiful carry profile. It is a wonderful one. There's a reason that this is an evergreen legacy knife, right? When I say evergreen, I mean this is a knife that is considered good, like almost by, I think evergreens. It's like considered good by a mass community for, let's say, I don't know, longer than a decade, typically, or maybe not a decade. An evergreen knife is one that is just largely considered like way above so many other options out there. It has a considerably larger percentage of the community that's giving it a thumbs up. Almost not universally, but much closer to universally than your average slop, right? So for example, the Benchmade Bug Out, right? Or the what's another good, really good example? The RSK MK1 G2 would be considered an evergreen knife, or the Spyderco PM2, right? I mean, these are like standout EDC preference knives. The bare knuckle is absolutely one of those knives. Has a wonderful carry profile. Let's go ahead and do the hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So this here is a T8, and imagine that's what the pivot is. And now we have a bunch of T6 screws. We have one, obviously, that's for the crossbar lock housing, and then we have 1, 2, 3 more. 4 on each side. My God, why? Why? 2 more is fine. It's already annoying that it's a crossbar lock, and we have all, you know, we'd have 3 T6 screws in each. So we got 4, my God, and then 2 more, well, 1 more for the pocket clip. I guess this is a pocket clip screw. Still, though, that's a lot. Crossbar lock's not the most fun to take apart. It's not impossible. They're far from impossible. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's measure the blade stock thickness here. Blade stock, bless it, there we go. Blade stock thickness on this guy, pretty darn thin at 116 thousandths. Weight, we did not do weight, did we? Okay, so we have aluminum. We have steel, a little bit steel internals for the housing for the crossbar lock, and then we have MagnaCut hardened to 62 to 64 HRC. Very nice. Is that a DLC coating? No, it is not. It is PVD. Bummer, but that's okay. 3.4 ounces. Gosh darn, good ratios there. Cannot complain about that. Balance, yeah, right there. That's nice. Really like that. All right, let's talk about the meat and potatoes. Everybody likes this knife because of the size, the blade to handle ratio, the little ramp back here for the jimping, the lock-in. It feels really good, very natural, almost Les George. As I say Les George, like he owns these ergonomic lines. That's what it makes me think of, but no. I mean, they're just really, really good preferential ergonomic lines, and man, that blade shape. It's a sheep's foot, but it has belly, and then it almost starts to curve outward, almost with a little beak-like tip, and I love that for draw cuts. Slicing, digging into packages, and just doing things that the average person does casually with a pocket knife. This has got to be one of the best EDC blade shapes out there. And yes, those subtle curvatures really do make a difference. The bare knuckle really does excel at a lot of different types of casual tasks. Specialized tasks, no, but the average person is just like me. You're casually walking around using a knife here and there for just for convenience, right? You're like 80% I've always said 80% of the knife community is just like me, right? Or, well, okay, in terms of their knife usage habits. 20% probably needs a knife for more specialized tasks, and maybe, 1% of the knife community or less is doing hyper-specialized professional work with knives, and they need every aspect of that knife to be incredibly particular. And the irony is that all of us treat ourselves as those 1%ers, right? We need the best for this or that. We don't, but it's okay to entertain that. I mean, that's what makes this hobby so fun, right? So it makes us want to collect everything. Really, really great blade shape. Do I think in the future they'll do a different version besides green and black? Oh, you betcha. You betcha. We're going to get carbon fiber and whatever finish. We're going to get the stone washed in the G10, and we're going to get, oh my gosh, we're going to get, I wouldn't surprise me if we get a mini, right? All that stuff is, I'm sure, coming in the future. So yeah, don't worry about that. Pocket clip, you can flip it over, and you can see right there it's slotted in here, so you can flip it over to the other side. This is a nice way to do that, and further proves my point that we do not have to create eyesores with filler tabs or slots cut out in order to accommodate for both left and right hand people. There's always a way to do it. Kershaw did it here, so that's great. Lockup, completely and totally solid. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick, no pivot lash. Smooth and consistent in here, and good enough snap into the closed position. Can this knife be improved? Yes, it can. I'll tell you. Here recently, Kindred Edge? The knife is called the Kindred Edge Alter. And for close to a decade, no one else besides Benchmade used a coil spring in a crossbar lock. Benchmade had it on the Anthem. It was 9 years ago in 2017. The Anthem had a crossbar lock. It was a really amazing feat because it was also an integral, but it was a crossbar lock that had a peg on it, and the peg sort of, I think, was stopped by something much like on like a ram lock. And then it had a coil spring around it. Why is this important? Well, the coil spring created not only better tension and a much better feeling. I mean, like, for example, on the ram lock here. Way more tension, feels way better on deployment, but it's also like it's like comically more reliable than Omega Springs. I don't know how Kindred Edge is doing it. I always thought that there was a patent protecting it, but maybe there is, maybe there isn't. If there's not a patent protecting this system, oh my God, all crossbar locks need to advance. If not in this direction, because this is what I would say you'd make one of the most perfect ambidextrous EDC pocket knives that have ever existed if you did that to the bare knuckle, and a number of other crossbar lock knives could easily qualify for that title. But this knife, I think I would take it in so many different locking systems outside of the crossbar lock. Like the crossbar lock is fine, it's fine, but I prefer sub-frame lock, nested liner lock, button-operated top liner lock, compression lock, and coil spring-operated compression lock over this. Is this good? Yes, it is. Very good. And I would venture to guess Kershaw uses pretty good omega springs. So for the most part, while there'll be a failure here and there, for the most part, you should be okay. I mean, geez, these could last for 10, 20 years, right? As long as you maintain them properly. And then when it comes time to switch out an omega spring, it's pretty simple. Not that big of a deal. So is this a recommendable knife? Oh my God, yes. It's incredible. It's definitely one of the best knives that Kershaw has in their entire lineup right now. And the price comes in at $184.99. I did notice, you sneaky weasels, you bumped the price of the Bel Air XL up to $190, which makes this look like a slightly better deal, even though you just very recently had that Bel Air priced way lower. Right? You could argue maybe that was holiday pricing. Okay. The standard Bel Air, right? This is the carbon fiber one. Standard Bel Air is still coming in at $160, making it probably dollar for dollar still the best USA made choice for EDC. And honestly, the point of diminishing returns still, as far as pocket knives go in general, you could stretch it out and say the Bel Air is still a pretty darn good deal, even though it was very recently a little bit less, right? But they got to make that bare knuckle look viable. $184 is pretty good. Do I think they could have sold this for $160, $170? Probably. You guys are playing a little bit of a dangerous game as you creep closer to $200. The thing that keeps Kershaw in the golden light of glory and worship in the knife community, especially those of us who love our USA-made knives, what keeps you guys there is that you are sub 200. The moment we start seeing the norm become 209, 219, right? That's when people are really gonna, yeah, right. You know, you're going down the same route as the ZT. And I understand it's hard for them to do that because as time progresses, everything's going to get more expensive. Everything that they do, their processes and materials that they use to build knives will become more expensive. It is the way of the world. That's what's going to happen, right? So hang on as long as you can, Kershaw. Hang on. Because there's not a lot of other companies who are able to produce knives at this caliber, this quality, right? You don't have an enormous amount of competition as far as USA-made knives go at this territory. I mean, you got some other knives out there, but some of them are, you know. And then you got that guy in the back who's like, what about Buck knives? I'm just kidding. Buck makes a good knife. Hogue makes a good knife. So there's a few different companies that are still hanging on in this territory, right? Expect to see this in a most carried playlist, almost certainly. And truthfully, you know, to be honest, the Kershaw Bareknuckle is, you know, in its day, it was considered like heads and shoulders above the vast majority of competition. By today's standard, it's pretty good, right? There's a lot of competition that, you know, you could stack this up against and it'd be like, yeah, you know, like especially when you factor in a lot of the Chinese stuff. This, I think, was a building block. This is one of like those learning pieces for a lot of companies going, people really like the Bareknuckle, right? A lot of knives that have a similar shape and look now. So it's there, right? If you love the original Bareknuckle, you like Kershaw's quality, you want you know, things like Magna Cut, heat treated properly, and you especially want your knives made in the USA. It's really hard to argue with something like this, right? So yeah, this is going to be a regular in my pocket. Highly recommendable knife. You'll find it in my most recommended knives playlist. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.